we're back. It's time for another Bloomburrow booster. Here we go. All right. Starting with our Rabbit Druid, the Druid of the Spade. 2-3 for 3. That's a 4-3 with Trample for 3 if you've got a token. Great for rabbits. Sky Skipper duo. Here's our Bird Frog duo. I think we got this one on our last booster pack. Has the flying for the bird and the blink ability for the frog. Another duo. Here we have Life Creed duo, a 1-2 with flying for 2. It's a bat and a bird, and whenever another creature you control enters, you gain 1 life. I love this. Nice and simple. As I said previously, I'm a big fan of these life gain strategies, especially when you're able to convert that into like a life drain on your opponents, or I even like, if you're super gaining life and you're just sort of putting yourself out of reach of your opponents, that's pretty fun too. Take out the trash. An instant for 2 deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker, and if you control a raccoon, you can discard a card, and if you do, you get to draw a card. This is great. This is a really reasonable 3 damage at instant speed. Doesn't hit players, but you can hit planeswalkers, which is not super common in Bloomburrow, but it's a nice sort of lightning bolt-esque replacement at 2 mana instead of 1 mana. And then the raccoon boost is really lovely. It makes it playable when you don't have a raccoon and just slightly better when you do have a raccoon. Ravine Raider. We got our lizards. 1-1 for 1 black. It's a lizard rogue. It has menace, and you can pay 1 and black to give it +1/+1 until the end of the turn. And there's no restriction on that. So this card is a nice example of a card that can be good early and late. I think without menace, it would be a lot worse all around. I mean, obviously a 1-1 for 1 with an ability that you can't always activate in the early game is pretty negligible in general. 1-1 with menace is not completely negligible, especially when the lizards want you to be dealing damage to your opponents to give extra value to the cards that you're playing. This is really a sort of deceptively versatile common. It's not obviously going to like turn the world on its head, but this is a really solid card. All right, we've got Finch Formation. This 3-cost bird gives you a 2-2 with flying. You can pay another 3 to get a 1-1 copy of it. When this creature enters, target creature you control gains flying until the end of the turn. Obviously, if you do the offspring, you're paying 6, but you're able to give up to 2 target creatures flying until the end of the turn. And this is another good example of how the birds sort of have negative synergy with each other, because all your other birds are already going to have flying, so you have to draft outside of your archetype to have this card have any value. I just really find the birds to be such a disappointment in a set that I find otherwise really pretty flawless. Pawn Prophet, solid, 1-1 for 2. When it enters, draw a card. 3-Tree Mascot. This is our little, it's not quite a mana dork. It's like our mana fixer that is not particularly good at doing that, but technically fits into any of your tribal archetypes. So, blech. All right, into our uncommons, we have Splash Lasher. It's our frog wizard, 3-3 for 4. It also has offspring, so you can pay another 2 to get a 1-1 version of it. When this enters, tap up to 1 target creature and put a stun counter on it. Stun counters are new since I sort of lapsed from playing Magic. I really like them. I started playing a game called Eternal, which is a digital game that is exceedingly similar to Magic, but it is digital only. Technically, I did see a physical version of it for sale in one store, but I would say that one of the biggest selling points of Eternal is that it is a digital card game that utilizes the fact that it's digital to do interesting things. So it plays very similarly to Magic. It has an almost identical mana system, almost identical casting system, and lots of sort of one-to-one abilities. Combat works the same. Very, very few changes. In Eternal, First Strike only works when you are the attacker, but there are minor changes like that. that otherwise make it a game that's really easy to jump into if you're a Magic player. And I like it because I wanted to play a digital version of a card game that had complexity similar to Magic, but without having to get my laptop out to play Arena. I don't like playing it on my phone. I feel like the screen just doesn't do a good job being so small to handle the complexity of, my hand of cards, my opponent's hand of cards, and two full board states. And Eternal, I can play on my Switch, on my gigantic TV in my living room, and I love that. All of that to say, in Eternal, they have an ability, I believe it is called Stun, that is this. They don't use counters because it is a digital card game, so it's all tracked digitally. But when you stun something, it taps down, and it doesn't untap the next time your untap step comes around. So you lose it for a turn, and you can multi-stun things, you can restun things. I like in Eternal if something has Eternal's equivalent of Vigilance, which is an untap at the end of the turn instead of it doesn't tap when attacking. That creature cannot be stunned. That's a fun little twist that I think makes those creatures feel a little more valuable. Anyway, all of that is to say, I started playing Eternal before Bloomburrow came out, and I was like, oh, this is a really nice like change on those sort of stun effects. Putting a counter that you have to remove is just a nice little sort of physical reminder in the card game that this thing doesn't untap, instead of just having the ability to say that. And then coming back to Magic and finding out that Magic itself had added stun counters, and that now this ability sort of replicates that ability from Eternal. I thought that was a sort of interesting, like, circular design space between two extremely similar games. Anyway, let's move on. Repel Calamity. For one white and one, at an instant speed, you can destroy target creature with power or toughness 4 or greater. Very nice little kill spell. It's fun in this set too, because there are strategies like Mice where you're not often going to be boosting past that with a lot of your creatures. There's plenty of like go wide strategies. Mice and rabbits come to mind, versus some of your other teams, like your big squirrel that's constantly putting counters on itself, or some of your frogs or something are going to be more susceptible to that. So I like cards like this that are simple and effective, but that are also sort of conditionally weak against other decks. A lot of cards are like that, but this one is a really subtle example of that because of the way that this limited format is made. Wildfire Howl. For 3, you at sorcery speed, with the option to gift a card, you get to deal 2 damage to each creature. Instead, if you promised the gift, which is to let your opponent draw a card, then it deals 1 damage to any target and 2 damage to each creature. So you can deal 1 extra damage to something. You can ping the opponent. You can, get an X3, stuff like that. If you let them draw a card, I think this is a sort of underwhelming. But I understand, as I was just saying, there are plenty of strategies like the rabbits that are going to go wide, and this can be absolutely devastating to a big board of small things, whereas, your smaller board of bigger things are not going to care about this. So this one, I think, is a nice inverse of the previous card, where it is conditionally good, but in a way that I feel like I'm not going to be picking this up and putting it in my main deck as much, whereas the previous white card I would. All right, Scavenger's Talent. Here's our rare. It's an enchantment. It's a class enchantment, which is another type of card that I have had to get used to since returning to Magic. So for 1 black, you start off with the ability at the top there. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control dies, you create a food token, and this ability only triggers once per turn. This is a pretty decent card for your squirrels in general, because they can activate their abilities off of either removing cards from your discard pile or off of food tokens. So this just really empowers you to be aggressive with your creatures, and to sort of get additional value without permanently removing resources from your discard pile. For 1 and a black, you can, at sorcery speed, level this up to level 2. Then you, in addition to that first ability, whenever you sacrifice a permanent, target player mills 2 cards. So sacrificing a permanent, you would be able to sacrifice a food to your squirrel's forage ability. Also, of course, food tokens can sacrifice themselves with their own ability, and there are other ways to, sacrifice permanents in this set. It's also nice that it has target player. I'm a big fan of mill strategies. I just love kind of attrition based strategies. So milling my opponent is a satisfying victory condition for me. However, obviously these squirrels are probably going to be targeting themselves with this ability because they want to fill their graveyard for future scavenging, for future foraging. Then if you want to go up to level 3, you pay 2 and a black and add on the ability at the beginning of your end step. You may sacrifice 3 other non-land permanents. If you do, return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Finality counter is another kind of newer ability. I believe that means that it comes back to the battlefield, and then after, if it leaves the battlefield, while it has a finality counter on it, you exile it. I'm not sure if that means if it goes from the battlefield to anywhere else, or if it's just if it would die, you exile it instead. I think it's the second one. Please let me know in the comments if I'm right or wrong. But you might be able to like unsummon it to your hand and then, not have to deal with the finality counter anymore. But this is cool. This is really well designed to play with the forage ability of the squirrels. You're enabling it with the basic ability. You're enabling it with the second ability. And of course, in a black deck, you might be able to get things back. And then of course, this card is a good example of that because at that level 3, you start every turn having the option to get things back. And of course, you're sacrificing permanents to do that. So you might be able to mill yourself when you're doing that, or you might even start milling out your opponent, depending on if that feels like a good value for you. This card just feels like a lovely little boost to your foraging squirrels deck. All right, we got our forest. Nice. Which season is this? This looks like summer to me. Tell me if I'm right. Here's our foil. It's a common card, Waterspout Warden. For 3, you get a 3/2 Frog Soldier. Whenever it attacks, if another creature entered the battlefield under your control this turn, it gains flying until the end of the turn. It's pretty nice. Conditional evasion obviously is worse than permanent evasion, but with the Frog deck, again, you're trying to blink your creatures. You're trying to return them to your hand so you can replay them. Lots of abilities are going to have creatures entering the battlefield under your control in the frog theme, the green-blue theme. So this guy should have flying pretty frequently, and for that, I think it's a pretty good body all around. 3/2 is a decent value at 3, and 3/2 with consistent evasion is even better. And our token is a treasure token. Look at the little raccoon things. So cute. I love that these tokens have sort of set specific designs as well. So the treasure changes depending on what set the treasure token comes from. This is so great. All right. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening to me rant. I am about to leave my house as of the recording of this and head to a Lorcana event. It's a learn to play Lorcana. Obviously, I have a lot of Magic cards. I'm also a big fan of Digimon, the card game, and I've been trying to get my husband into Lorcana because we both love Pokemon, but I don't like the Pokemon card game. I don't like the gameplay of it. So I like the cards, and I like the characters the cards are based on, but this gameplay doesn't work for me. And I have played Lorcana once, and I really, really like it. I think the art is really good, which is something I also like a lot about the Digimon card game, and I think has gotten much, much better about the Pokemon card game. So I'm like, if my husband wants to buy booster packs every once in a while just to casually collect, I would rather him buy Lorcana cards that I'm interested in actually playing with than Pokemon cards that I don't think either of us really know what to do with once we have them. All of that to say, Magic's not my only game. I open booster packs for Digimon cards. I might start opening booster packs for Lorcana cards. And technically, unless today goes in a very specific direction, there might be Pokemon cards that I could open. If you're curious, obviously I will continue to open a bunch more Bloomburrow. We've got a ways to go. This thing is mostly filled. So we're going to be living with Bloomburrow for a while. I don't anticipate not playing Magic anymore. So I would love to keep opening packs of Magic after I'm done with this Bloomburrow box. But if you're interested in seeing Digimon, I love Digimon cards. The booster boxes are a little bit cheaper than Magic cards because it's not as popular of a game. And Lorcana is the young upstart, new hotness kind of bursting onto the TCG scene. So if you're interested in any of those, let me know as well. And I might just be interested in opening some packs for you. So hit me up in the comments, find me on Discord, message us on the messaging venues that we utilize for our podcast, Blake and Spencer Get Jumped, and I will see you for the next booster pack.